previous classes, I've always been mentioning this. I think this is like the first class I've been mentioning about compliance. So yeah, we're finally talking about compliance today, and this is like one of the most critical aspects of cloud security. I think after IAM, compliance and governance. This is not just about checking boxes. This class is going to be very, very interactive because this is not a technical class. Now, this is about building trust, protecting your organization and ensuring that you can sleep at night, knowing that your cloud infrastructure meets the legal and regulatory requirements. So this is not about being technical at all. This is just about being, should I say, yeah, critical. Yeah, just critical, you know, critical, um, being aware, making sure that whatever you're doing does not infringe on anybody's right, does not, you know, overstep legal boundaries, literally. So yeah. So let me ask the question. How many of you have heard of companies facing massive fines due to compliance failures? I mean, maybe compliance violations, because literally, like a lot of companies literally face true violations, like violations alone have resulted in billions of dollars in penalties. And, you must have heard of one or two. So tell me, or meet yourself and tell me, like, have you heard of any company that has faced massive fines due to compliance failure? Please, real quick, Paul, Paul, wait, am I? Paul, I believe Paul is on this call.
Yes, he's on the call.
Okay, Elizabeth, tell,
Close to his phone.
you said?
As maybe he's not close to his phone.
Okay, Elizabeth, tell us, have you heard of any company that has, faced massive fines due to compliance failures?
No, no, I've not heard. I've not heard of any. I've not heard of anyone.
Are you for real?
Hello, ma. Good
Hello,
evening.
good evening.
Okay, can I join my voice?
Of course, you can. Please save them.
So, I've heard about Facebook concerning what do you call it? So about elections in US when it had to do with a documentary I watched called Cambridge Analytica, and it came out to be that Facebook were using algorithms to throw adverts, electoral adverts on people.
Mm. Are you done? Because I can't hear you again. Is it still on the call? I think that's network. Hi, Mr. Ostus. Wow, maybe he was kicked out. Okay, even recent. Okay, not recently, but last year, I think Paystack they released a new fintech product. I think Zap or something, and CBN. Yes, CBN fined them for some. I can't remember what CBN fined them for. Maybe a particular they broke a particular law or something sharp, and they were fined heavily. Who can remind me? Let me check. It's like I can't really have access to anywhere. We check before the class ends. So literally that's an example of you know companies facing massive fines due to compliance failure. So now, so now compliance and governance are the twin pillars that keep your cloud environment legally sound. and operationally secure. So let's break this down, why this matters more than ever. On security, cloud systems must be secure, but security alone is not enough. You need accountability. So when something goes wrong, you need to prove what happened, when it happened, and to prove that you had proper controls in place. So think of compliance as your insurance policy. It's the documentation trail that protects your organization during audits, investigations, or legal proceedings. So, on alignment with standards, as a lot of organizations migrate to AWS and Azure, they often assume that the cloud provider handles compliance. This is only partially true. Again, this is why you have to understand shared responsibility. This is partially true that, yeah, the cloud providers will handle compliance, but the provider ensures the infrastructure is compliant. You are responsible for how you use it. Again, the shared responsibility model. The provider secures the cloud infrastructure, and you secure what you do in the cloud. That's on alignment with standards. Now, on visibility control and documentation. Visibility, you can't protect what you can't see. You need complete visibility into who accessed what, when, and from where. We've always discussed this, right? When we're doing monitoring and logging, mention this. Therefore, control. Governance policies enforce who can do what. Without proper controls, even one misconfigured S3 bucket can expose millions of records. And the last one under visibility control and documentation is documentation itself. Auditors don't just want to hear that you're secure. They want proof. Documentation is your evidence. And I know that there was a time, I think it was during monitoring and logging, I mentioned that even in finance, even in auditing in finance, or when auditors come, we tell them that you got an asset for 1 million. They don't just rely on what the internal auditor said. They have to confirm. They have to do external confirmation. They will check your receipt. They will do analytical procedure. They will even do recalculation. They can check what's the price of this asset. They know how much you got it. If there's a slight difference, why? Is it that the person you got it from sells higher than others? All this is part, like they're all part of auditing. The same thing aligns with when you're doing security audits. Auditing procedure standards controls are literally uniform. Same process. You must do it. You must inquire. You must do external confirmation. You must never rely on one evidence, especially when it's even now oral. Written evidence beats oral evidence. So they want to, like, I'm now talking about like normal auditing standard, not to talk of when it comes to security. They have to see that yes, truly, you actually put proper controls in place. So now on regulatory obligations, different industries face different regulations. Like I said, healthcare has EPA, financial services have PCI DSS, and European companies must comply with GDPR. Nigerian companies, NDPR. Fintech, they have to comply with also, I think, CBN. There are some CBN regulations they have to comply with. So understanding your obligation is there, understanding where you even belong, where you're working, the industry you're working in is very, very important. So when you understand where you're working in, you'll be able to like understand, okay, what really hits us? What do we have to do? So now, what is cloud compliance? Cloud compliance means adhering to laws, regulations, and industry standards when you store, process, and manage data in the cloud. It's not just about following rules. It's about demonstrating due diligence and protecting your organization from legal, financial, reputational damage. If you're working in an organization where they don't have SOC yet, or they've not passed maybe ISO 27001, maybe they're using AI and they've not passed the ISO. Hello, please mute yourself. Or they've not passed the ISO 24001. You'll be part of the people that will make sure they are able to get to that stage where they pass. You don't have to be the lead auditor. but like you have to help them. So you need to understand when organizations have to like go through security, when they have to pass through security compliance, when it has to do compliance, their security team, they're always stressed at that point. Let me just put it that way. It's just like the same way when auditors want to come and audit a company. I mean, I'm talking financially now. Auditors want to come and audit a company, see that the finance team are always in trouble during that period. They're always in trouble, like because they will be the ones to answer or to attend to the external auditors that are coming to audit their financial records. So same for security company. The security team are going to be all hands on deck, literally, until they pass that certification. They are doing ISO 27001 or any other certification that they are trying to get. Auditors will come and audit them. So all security teams at that time, they are always stressed. So as a security engineer, you need to actually understand compliance. So it's about demonstrating due diligence and protecting your organization from legal, financial, and reputational damage. So there are 4 pillars of compliance. Let's explain them. Data protection and privacy. This is about safeguarding personal and sensitive information. Under regulations like, let's say, GDPR and even Nigeria's NDPR, organizations must protect personal data of face-to-face penalties. I told you during our previous classes, I gave you an example, like in our startup that my community manager was saying that we should get the real names of our community members. And like, I'm never going to do that. Because in the future, somebody can say, there was a time this company in their community were asking us to fill a form and put our real name, our email, our address. She was saying that so that we can have a personal relation. I said, no, we don't need to have it. No, don't. If we cannot be through our webinars that we're already doing, that they come to, we do webinars, we do town halls and all of that. If we can't communicate with them through that, I am not going to be collecting anybody's data. That's the perk of being, should I say, being aware, not even about being a security engineer now, like just being aware about, oh yeah, this is actually very dangerous for us. Not everybody knows that. And that's why you will be all hands on deck when they come to your company, because your stakeholders, your executives, your managers that are not technical, they'll be expecting that, oh, what are we supposed to do? So I'm like, no, we're not collecting anybody's data. We don't need it. If we must collect people's data, we must state it in our privacy policy or terms of service, or like even in our privacy, we must state why are we collecting, when we collect it, what do we use it to do? Like it must be plain like that. So when organizations do not, protect personal data, they can face severe penalties. Data protection includes encryption, access controls, data residency requirements, and proper data lifecycle management. I told you during encryption and during encryption, I told you that I spoke at the webinar. January was Data Privacy Week, and I spoke at a webinar, and one of the questions that I really, really liked was when they asked me that they were to build a secure system where what would it have? And the first thing I said was, oh, zero trust. Like to have a zero trust architecture, it will never trust anybody. It will always try to verify. Assume that you know nobody. So verify. And the second one is that there will be data minimization by design, meaning that we will not collect more than we need. I am very, very, when it comes to data, maybe because, I feel like when you start reading about things, when you start, learning things like this, even if you don't want to practice, when you just, or when you, maybe if you plan as a person, you plan to have a business of your own, you just have to just at your own leisure time, just read about things like this. What are some, I call them loopholes. What are some things that can actually bring a business down? It's not just about making loss, like money wise. There are some things that can just bring a business down for no reason. And one of them is not being compliant. Not being compliant. That's just one of it. So if you have a business, if you have a small business, even if you have a very, very small business, try to just be, abreast of these things. It will help you. you just so that data part, I am very I'm just very careful about it. So I said the data minimization by design, meaning that you will only collect data for what you will not even exceed that boundary or that threshold. The other one is that it will be secure by default as you're building whatever system that you're building. You would always infuse security, not until where we are done. So that's then. So for example, now if you are processing EU citizen data, GDPR requires you to know where that data is stored, who can access it, and how long you retain it. So let's go to another one, secure handling of sensitive information. See, different data types require different protection levels. Financial data, health records, and personally identifiable information. They need stringent controls. If you remember, during one of the classes, I said that as somebody who like goes to therapy, imagine my where I'm currently having my therapy session. Imagine they get hacked and my health records is out there, like everything that is wrong with me is out there. Competitor can literally pick it up and say, is this who you want? Like this is literally the person you want, or this is literally the person that is running so company and you people are going there. Like, see, business is when it comes to business, marketing is a dirty warfare. You don't tell people, like you can't really measure where somebody can come to you from. Like competitors, like they can come from anywhere. Like the dirty warfare, you can't really, you know, you can't really control that. It's out of control. It's just for you to make sure that everywhere is tightened up. You might think you're small, but then somehow, somebody somewhere is just watching you and waiting for you to fuck up or mess up. So something like that, and I can sue them because that is a very sensitive information. So information like that need stringent controls. Then secure handling means that they must implement least privilege access, encrypt data in transit and at rest, and maintaining audit logs of all access. Maybe in their company, Please give me a second. Yeah. Sorry guys. I just had to attend to something real quick. Okay, so where were we? Yeah, so I said secure handling means implementing least privilege access, encrypting data in transit and at rest, and maintaining audit logs of all access. So I was still trying to like use the therapy agency as an example. So let's say in their company they give overly permissive access to people's health records. Maybe they don't have like you know least privilege. That okay, maybe it's only the clinical psychologist that should have access to health records, or maybe admin, or like they could have like because when you call them, I think the customer care would answer you first, or maybe the admin or something, maybe a help desk, and help desk to like transfer the call to the clinical psychologist that you want to see. So obviously they probably have like a lot of staff. So it really depends on them that okay, who am I giving access to? Something as sensitive as that should be handled carefully, should be encrypted when they are probably moving to whatever it is, maybe they are storing it somewhere, or they are, whatever it is they're really, really doing, it should be encrypted. Then they should have audit logs of who is accessing that sensitive one. It's only the clinical psychologist that is accessing it. Is the clinical psychologist giving another person access? Even when you're like being transferred to another therapist, from one therapist to another therapist, the person that transferred you to another should not have access to your health records again. These are things that they're supposed to do. And hopefully they are doing it. I just hope they are doing it. So that's literally it. So think about it. Would you want your medical records accessible to anyone in the hospital's IT department? Of course not. So that same principle applies to cloud data. Another one is audit readiness. See, audits can happen with little notice. Being audit ready means maintaining continuous compliance, not scrambling when auditors show up. Somebody can give somebody regulators or regulating bodies insider information, maybe insider information or just information that they think that you are mishandling people's data. I think Temu is getting that it right now. They think they are not using people's data well or something. And they'll get they'll get audited. So if they are not audit ready, they will pay fines. So I've always said that compliance, not even compliance, incident response is not what you do when you get attacked or when you get breached. It's your basic security habits. Same thing with compliance. If you want to be compliant right from time, trust me, you won't even know. It's not even about when you apply. It's not about when you apply to get a particular certification. You could get, maybe somebody could say, oh, they think that you're not handling data well, or you're doing something wrong, and you get audited. So what do you want to say about that? So audit readiness requires you automate logs, automate logging, regular compliance assessments within your company, not until you have like an external auditor, documented policies, and evidence that those policies are actually being followed. Tools like AWS Cloud Trail and Azure Monitor, they provide the audit trails that you need, but only if configured correctly. Another thing compliance ensures reduce legal and financial risk. You know, I don't know, maybe not all of us are commercial students here, but like when you're doing even the basic, maybe business studies, or maybe ethics or anything that has to do with corporate governance, you will do business risk. And business risk, under business risk, you always find legal and financial risk. Compliance failures can result in massive fines, lawsuits, loss of business licenses, and destroyed reputation that nothing can buy back. Like at least under GDPR, fines can reach up to like 4% of global annual revenue. Whichever is like, I think 4% of global annual revenue, or 20 million pounds or something. Whichever is higher between them. But beyond fines, beyond paying money, I mean, if they say, oh, you're going to pay 100,000 for something that you did wrong, you'd be like, okay, let me see. Maybe when I make profit at the end of this month, I'll try to pay it. But beyond fines, reputational damage. And apart from that, it causes erosion of trust. I think statistics show that 65% of customers lose trust in companies after a data breach. You don't get breached and you say something the next day you expect me to trust you. That's why most companies don't announce breaches. They don't. Let me bust you. There was a time we were doing a research for the company, and I came across a tweet from a guy that said he was going to compile list of breaches in fintech. And when I replied to that comment, the guy responded to me and said, he didn't work on it again because of lawsuits. Meaning that some companies they knew that it was going to expose them. So I think they messaged him and maybe probably threatened him that he's going to get sued or fined or so. I really don't know. But he said he wasn't working on it again. And that's when I realized that, do you know how many breaches would have happened that Nigeria, most especially, companies would have covered up because they know that customers will lose trust in them. So now, the shared responsibility model, again, is a critical concept because a lot of organizations still think that the cloud providers offer compliance infrastructure. Yes, they handle physical security, hardware compliance, and infrastructure certifications. However, you are responsible for secure configuration and governance controls. AWS might provide encrypted storage options, but if you don't enable encryption or you misconfigure access policies, that's on you. Think of it like renting an apartment in a secure building. Again, the building provides locks and security cameras, but if you leave your door unlocked, that's your responsibility. It's your responsibility to lock your door. Now, let's look at some major frameworks. These 3 frameworks that I have here represent the most widely recognized compliance standards in cloud security, and there are a lot more actually. So, and understanding them is essential for any cloud security professional. So let's look at ISO IEC 27001. ISO 27001 is the international gold standard for information security management, and it's a comprehensive framework for establishing, implementing, maintaining, and continuously improving an information security management system, or ISMS. So why does it matter? This certification demonstrates to customers, to your partners, and regulators that you have a systematic approach to managing sensitive information. Like they will trust you that yes, you can manage sensitive information. So it's not just about technology, like I said, like this particular topic is not about being technical at all. ISO 7001 covers people, processes, and technology in a holistic approach to security. So key components, risk assessment methodology, you must identify and assess information security risk systematically. The security controls, like ISO 27001 Annex A, provides 114 controls across 14 categories, from access control to cryptography to supplier relationships. Then continuous improvement. This is a one-time certification. You must demonstrate ongoing monitoring and improvement. So now the implementation in cloud. In AWS and Azure, ISO 27001 compliance means implementing controls like encryption, IAM policies, network segmentation, logging, and incident response procedures. So both AWS and Azure hold ISO 27001 certifications for their infrastructure, which provides a strong foundation for your own certification efforts. So now let's go to SOC 2. SOC 2 is Service Organization Control 2. It's an auditing framework developed by the American Institute of CPAs. It's specifically designed for service providers. Service providers that are storing customer data in the cloud. So the 5 trust service criteria: 1, security, protection against unauthorized access, both physical and logical. Availability, systems are available for operation and use as committed and or agreed. Then processing integrity, system processing is complete, valid, accurate, timely, and authorized. The other one is confidentiality. Information designated as confidential is protected as committed or agreed. And the last one is privacy. Personal information is collected, used, retained, disclosed, and disposed of in conformity with privacy commitment. So there are 2 types of SOC. There's type 1, there's type 2. So SOC 2 type 1 evaluates your controls at a specific point in time. I don't know if there's any account student here, but if you are doing auditing, you literally see this in auditing. That's why I said auditing controls, auditing procedures are they are uniform worldwide. I literally knew this from auditing, financial, when you're auditing financial records and everything. So SOC 2 type 1 evaluates your controls at a specific point in time. That's like a snapshot. Then SOC 2 type 2 evaluates your controls over a period, maybe 6 to 12 months, proving sustained compliance. But type 2 is much more valuable because it demonstrates that you maintain controls consistently, not just during audit season. So when they come up and they see that, for months, this is what you've been doing, not just a specific point in time. So cloud implementation of SOC 2 now, you will need robust access controls like change management procedures, system monitoring, incident response capabilities, and detailed documentation. So both Azure and AWS provide SOC 2 reports, but again, your implementation must also comply. This should have been NDPR, but I don't know why this girl put GDPR. But let's just talk about it. So GDPR in depth, the General Data Protection Regulation is the EU's comprehensive data protection and privacy regulation enforced since May 2018. So even if you're not in Europe, if you process data of EU citizens, GDPR applies to you. The core principles: lawfulness, fairness, and transparency. You must have a legal basis for processing data, and you must be transparent about it. Purpose limitation: you can only use data for the specific purposes you collected it for. That's also called data minimization. Okay, there's data minimization to collect only what you actually need. Then accuracy: keep data accurate and up to date. Storage limitation: don't keep data longer than necessary. You see some sites, they will say that, we actually delete or we don't store your data anywhere on our so. Then integrity and confidentiality: protect data with appropriate security measures. The last one is accountability. You must demonstrate compliance, not just claim it. Now, people that you are keeping their data, they have key rights, and they have some right to access. Individuals can request copies of their data. I can request copies of my data from my therapy agency that I want to see copies of my data. Even NDPR supports that. Right to erasure, that's right to be forgotten. Individuals can request deletion of that. They can say, okay, I don't want to store my data at all. Please delete my data at once. Then right to data portability: individuals can request their data in a transferable format. Right to be informed: you must inform individuals about how you use their data. Now, cloud implementation considerations: data residency. Some data must be stored within the EU. AWS and Azure, they offer EU-specific regions. Then data processing agreement: you need contracts with your cloud provider defining data processing responsibilities. So another one is breach notification. GDPR requires notification within 72 hours of discovery. Your cloud monitoring must support this, that yes, that you are notifying people after 72 hours of discovering that you've been breached. Then data protection by design and default: security must be built in from the start, not noted on later. Some penalties. GDPR as teeth. British Airways was fined, I think, about 20 million for 2018 breach. Marriott International was fined 18.4 million. And this were not because they were malicious. They failed to implement adequate security measures. So why these three? These frameworks guide organizations in implementing structured security controls. They are not just compliance checkboxes. They are blueprints for building secure, trustworthy systems. And many other frameworks build upon or reference these standards. So these frameworks tells us what to do. Now let's talk about how we implement governance in cloud environments. So governance is about establishing guardrails that ensure cloud resources are used securely and responsibly across your entire organization. Without governance, cloud environments quickly become chaotic and insecure. Cloud governance refers to the policies, the procedures, and controls that ensure cloud resources are provisioned, configured, and used in ways that meet security requirements. That is, comply with regulations, control costs, and support business objectives. We have 5 pillars of cloud governance. Access control policies. This is literally about, we've said this a lot of times, implementing principle of least privilege. Users should only have minimum permissions necessary to do their job, nothing more. In practice, this will mean that you're using the role-based access control in Azure and IAM policies in AWS. Then regularly review these access controls. These are things that we've mentioned over and over again. Using your IAM roles, your policies, your groups. Never use the root accounts for daily operations. And in Azure, leverage Azure AD, RBAC, and privilege identity management. Then also MFA, multi-factor authentication for all privileged access. Another one is resource tagging standards. Tagging is not beautiful. It's very unglamorous, but it's critical. Tags are metadata labels you attach to cloud resources. And why do they matter? They enable cost allocation, compliance tracking, security monitoring, and automated policy enforcement. So tagging strategy is literally you probably, like, for example, environment tags. Maybe, okay, this is dev environment, this is staging environment, this is production environment. So this will help you to prevent accidental deletion or making changes in the wrong environment. And no, I can't mention this production because this is literally very, very critical. And there are cost center tags, there are compliance tags, there are owner tags, there are data classification tags. Is this public? Is this internal? Is this confidential? Is this restricted? So the enforcement here is that don't make tagging optional. Use AWS service control policies or Azure policy to require tags before resources can be created. For example, an example of a policy you can make is that no EC2 instance can be launched without an owner, cost center, and environment tag. So everybody make sure that they tag before they do anything. Another one is cost management policies. Cloud costs can spiral out of control quickly. That's why I tell you, please delete your resources immediately. There are organizations that have spent hundreds of or thousands on forgotten resources. Governance includes setting budgets, monitoring spending, and automatically shutting down or alerting on anomalous spending. And some of your implementation strategies should be setting budget alert in AWS budgets or Azure cost management. Implement automatic shutdown of non-production resources during off hours. Right sizing, regularly review resource utilization and downsize over-provisioned instances. Another one here is compliance monitoring. Compliance, again, is not a one-time achievement. It's a in fact, security is continuous. You need continuous monitoring to detect and remediate compliance drift. Compliance drift occurs when configurations change over time, moving away from compliant state. So some tools that you can use: AWS Config, Azure Policy, AWS Security Hub, and Azure Security Center. Then audit tracking. Every action in your cloud environment should be logged. Again, it should be logged. Who did what, when, and from where. This audit logs to serve multiple purposes: security investigations for yourself, compliance audits for auditors, forensic analysis after incidents, and operational troubleshooting. There's a problem, something is not open. Okay, let's go and check the logs. Maybe somebody clicked off something, maybe somebody brought down something, and all of that. Also, protect your logs. Yes, they are a prime target for attackers trying to cover their track. The person I would delete if I want to attack you and I don't want you to know is to delete your logs. So always store your logs in a separate account with restricted access. Always use your write once, read many storage configurations. Don't give anybody just anyhow access to where your logs are being stored. And there are built-in governance tools in the cloud. AWS organizations. It centrally manages multiple AWS accounts with service control policies. And there's AWS Control Tower, automated multi-account governance with pre-configured guardrails. There's AWS Config, continuous compliance monitoring. There's AWS System Manager, automate operational tasks and enforce desired state configurations. Then for Azure, there's Azure management groups, hierarchically organize subscriptions and apply policies at scale. There's Azure Policy, there's Azure Blueprint, there's Azure Resource Graph. So then we have policy as code. Modern governance means defining your policies as code, version controlled, peer reviewed, and automatically deployed. It's just like saying infrastructure as code, but applied to governance. Imagine you're a financial services company and your governance policies might include all production resources must be in specific regions for data residency, all data must be encrypted with customer managed keys, no direct internet access to databases, all changes require approval workflows, multi-factor authentication is mandatory. These policies are enforced automatically through native. Imagine your policies like that. So we've talked about what compliance means and how governance works. Let's look at the specific resources AWS and Azure provide to help you achieve compliance. So AWS Compliance Center, both AWS and Azure, they invest heavily in compliance because they know it is essential for enterprise adoption. AWS as Compliance Center, it provides essentially your one-stop resource for AWS compliance information, reports, and certifications. You have compliance reports, AWS artifacts, and download sub reports, PCI attestations, ISO certifications. All these reports are under NDA, so you need to accept terms before accessing them. There are certifications and attestations. AWS maintains certifications for dozens of compliance programs like ISO 27001, SOC 123, PCI DSS Level 1, HIPAA, FedRAMP, and many more. And AWS publishes which services are in scope for each compliance program. So this is very critical for your architectural decision. I don't know if you guys have read the well-architected framework, not just the security pillar. Please read all the pillars. Then security documentation, white papers. AWS has a lot of white papers on security best practices. Example is the AWS well-architected framework under security pillar. White papers on security best practices, compliance guidance, and reference architectures. So please, you've not gone through the AWS well-architected framework, please do that. Then AWS has compliance programs by region. AWS compliance varies by region. Some certifications apply globally. Others are region specific. For example, AWS has specific compliance programs for countries like Singapore, Japan, and Australia. So this is how to use it. Before starting a project, check which AWS services are covered under your required compliance framework. You can use AWS artifacts reports during your audit process to demonstrate that your cloud provider is compliant. Then you should review the shared responsibility model documentation for each compliance program to understand what AWS handles versus what you must handle. Then for Microsoft Azure, there's Trust Center. Trust Center provides comprehensive information about Azure's approach to security, privacy, compliance, and transparency, and some key resources, compliance offerings. Azure supports over 90 compliance offerings, the broadest portfolio in the industry. The coverage includes global standards, ISO, SOC, government regulations, federal, DoD, industry standards, EPA, PCI DSS, and regional standards like GDPR, and IRAP Australia. So data protection and privacy. Azure has like a detailed documentation on how Azure protects data, where data is stored, data residency options, and data subject rights. Even Azure provides tools to help with GDPR compliance, including data subject requests, that's DSR capabilities. Then Azure as a compliance manager, a workflow-based risk assessment tool in the Microsoft 365 Compliance Center. Azure provides a compliance score based on your implementation of recommended controls. Azure assigns improvement actions and tracks your progress toward compliance. Then there's Service Trust Portal, also similar to AWS Artifact, where you can access audit reports. Then it also requires accepting there's Azure Security Benchmark. These are prescriptive best practices and recommendations for security and compliance aligned with common control frameworks like CIS controls and NIST. Then Azure Security Center can also assess your resources against, like, you can assess it against these benchmarks to make sure whether you're actually compliant. Then Azure has transparency reports. Microsoft publishes like transparency report during showing government's request for data or content removal request. So this transparency can help you understand how your provider handles legal requests. Then Azure also has regional compliance. So how organizations use these portals during architecture design? If you are designing your architecture on any of these cloud provider, it's very important that you verify that the services that you plan to use are covered under your required compliance frameworks. Identify any service limitations or regional restrictions based on compliance requirements. Because during audit, too, organizations can provide auditors, like, can provide them with your cloud providers' compliance certification and attestations. So use your provider's compliance documentation to map controls to your own compliance requirements as a company. And when a customer asks about your compliance posture, you can reference your cloud provider certifications. You can even download and share, when permitted, some relevant compliance report that, on AWS, where we are hosting resources, these are the certifications, these are some reports on how compliant AWS is. Then for continuous compliance, very important to subscribe to updates about new compliance certifications and changes to existing ones. So review compliance documentation with AWS or Azure announces new service or regions. All these portals prove that AWS and Azure provide compliance infrastructure. Yes. However, and I cannot stress this enough, it is your responsibility to configure and use these services in a compliant manner. The infrastructure being compliant does not automatically make your implementation compliant. If you are building a healthcare application that must comply with EPA, both AWS and Azure are EPA eligible. meaning they offer HIPAA compliance infrastructure, but you must sign a business associate agreement with your provider that, okay, you want to use only HIPAA eligible services, enable encryption, implement proper access controls, maintain audit logs, ensure your application code does not create vulnerabilities. The Trust Center and Compliance Center can help you verify your provider meets their obligations, but you must still meet yours. Please, do we understand everything that we've been talking about since? Like I said, this is not technical in any way. This is just about understanding the basic thing, building trust, knowing when to be compliant. Nobody saying anything. Hello.
Yeah, hello, ma.
Hello.
So, okay, you guys were not saying anything. So I'm expecting that at least since we announced your project, I'm expecting that all these classes that we've been having, especially after, even before announcing your project, now that we've announced your project until now, I'm expecting that you should use at least, or they should show, yes, they should show in your project that yes, you actually, because I don't want you to use the project out of, oh, it's just a project for VA cybersecurity. No, do it like this is some real world project you're doing. Do you understand? So when it comes to compliance, implement compliance, implement tagging, implement encryption, just do everything all together because it will look like as if it's a scenario. All your projects, they come in scenarios, right? And you're trying to solve a problem. And this is a problem that is probably affecting the company. Just imagine it like that because it's something that you can put on your portfolio. So all the classes that we've been going through, that we've been doing, they should actually like reflect. They should reflect in your, what's it called? They should reflect in your project. I think she made a mistake. This was not supposed to be there. Ready? Announce the project. So yeah. So that's it. Do we have any questions? Hello. I don't know why you guys are not saying anything. Do you have any questions? Yes or no?
Yeah, I have a question. Good evening.
Go ahead. Why didn't you say anything when I said you have a question?
Sorry, I didn't get to. Okay, so I wanted to ask if you are building on the cloud. I know definitely.
If you're building what?
Yeah. So if you are building a solution on the
Sorry,
cloud,
if you're building on the cloud.
yes. I know you
Okay.
spoke about NIST. I know some frameworks, NIST, GDPR, and the likes of it.
Mm,
So, and we've been using AWS. So I know when it comes to S3 buckets, they
I
are.
can't hear you again, no.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Or
Okay.
can you type it?
Okay, let me see if I can type.
I don't know. What is my network? I don't even know at this point. Typed already. Okay, so we've covered like a massive amount of ground today. So let's just recap like key takeaways while Paul types in the chat box. Number one key takeaway is that compliance is non-negotiable. In today's regulatory environment, you cannot operate cloud infrastructure without addressing compliance. The consequences of non-compliance, financial penalties, legal liability, reputational damage, They are too severe to ignore. Then shared responsibility model. Again, cloud providers give you compliance infrastructure. It is their job to make sure that their platforms are all compliant infrastructure-wise, but you're responsible for using it securely. Never assume that because your provider is compliant, you automatically are too. The major frameworks, ISO 27001, SOC 2, and GDPR are foundational frameworks that you must understand, because many other frameworks, they build upon or they reference the standards. Then governance enables compliance. Without governance, access control, tagging, monitoring policies, compliance is impossible at scale. Governance is not overhead. It's the foundation of secure, compliant cloud operations. Then use your provider resources. People that have not read your AWS well-architected framework, I swear you will learn a lot by reading the resources that these providers are providing. AWS Compliance Center or Azure Trust Center. They are invaluable resources. Use them. Download their compliance reports. Review their certifications. Understand what they cover. It is their duty to explain to you that you are their customer. It's their duty to explain to you what they are liable for, what they cover. Their recent certifications. Just like when you have a business or when you work in a company, it's your duty to note all this, all these obligations. Let your customers know, your clients, your consumers know what you use their data for. These things are very important. So they're also doing the same thing for you. So use theirs, because you can even reference their certification, their reports. That, oh yeah, what we're using AWS, and these are their reports, very compliant and all that. Then practice is essential. Everything apart from the project, even after the project, everything that you've done from class one, apart from the cybersecurity basics, it's absolutely fine to go back and do a recap and refresh down to today. So always practice. You can even do small projects for each class. So you stack them up all together. And for your career, maybe you can even, probably specialize in cloud compliance, because cloud compliance skills are in enormous demand right now. Every organization moving to the cloud, they need professionals who understand compliance. So if you understand security, you understand compliance, I mean, super duper okay, because GRC is part of security. And I feel like at this point, apart from people that actually specialize in GRC, everybody in security must understand compliance. You must understand governance, risk, and compliance. You must. Because even if you're working in cloud, you're not working in cloud. You're working like I do not do GRC. You're working like nobody's going to hear that. That you don't understand compliance because you know the GRC, you know put GRC. So compliance and governance might not be the most exciting topics in cybersecurity, because everybody's after, I want to own threats, I want to do pen testing, threat hunting, they get all the glory. But compliance is what separates amateur security enthusiasts from professional security engineers. Because employers want people who cannot only secure systems, but also prove they are secure and maintain that security posture over time. That is what makes you valuable. You cannot be working in a company now and they face a compliance problem. They'll first blame you that you're not supposed to know this. Didn't you know that this is going to cost us problems when you were collecting, things like that. Just like the software engineer. A software engineer will not call himself a software engineer if he does not know some things all around. He must at least even be aware, or at least know a little bit about the cloud. You must know machine learning. It's not just about, if you're calling yourself a web designer, that one is different. You're calling yourself a web designer. Not that you're just designing webs or you're a web developer. That's what you do. But the moment you get yourself a software engineer, it is broad. You have to know ML. You have to even know a bit of DevOps. You have to interact with cloud. You have to even know cybersecurity, at least when you're coding, you need to know, okay, I can code securely. You have to know, you have to have like a bit like just surface knowledge of cybersecurity, imagine for yourself, because you can call you to build any application or any kind of product. So the same people in cybersecurity, you cannot say, yeah, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know it because I do not pick it, I do not specialize in it. No. Nobody's going to even listen to that. I think I don't do network engineer. I don't do that. I don't pick network security, so I don't really remember how to secure networks. You can't say that. So please always refresh. Always go back to the basics. Always, can do that as much as possible. And don't trap yourself in a bubble. As you're learning cloud security, you might say, okay, I want to go a little bit deeper into GRC. I want to integrate them together, especially in cloud. You cannot even say, because cloud is like an entire new world of tool. There's cloud pen testing, there's container security, that's Docker and Kubernetes. Can't say don't know, because I'm not a DevOps engineer. I don't do DevSecOps, so I don't know. All of these things are in cloud. These are resources in cloud. So you need to know how to, there's platform engineering. So like cloud is literally another world on its own. And if you're now saying you want to secure it, you need to know about the resources there before you can say you want to secure it. So don't trap yourself in a bubble. And now cloud is even now making use of API, and there's API security. So don't trap yourself in a bubble. If you learn cloud security and you're doing projects daily, when you are even learning, it will be the one, it is your learning journey, your learning streak that will push you. It's when you are learning something that you see something else that you be like, well, I do know about this, I want to know about it. That is why learning never stops. Learning is continuous. So yeah, even after VA cybersecurity Cohort 2, I'm absolutely here to support your learning. You can reach me on a WhatsApp number. You can reach me on my email, I guess. If I'm not replying in time because I'm an elderly woman. I really don't respond in time on WhatsApp. That's on the right time. But yeah, you can absolutely reach out to me if you don't understand something or you want me to. When it comes to, except if I'm busy, if I'm genuinely busy, or maybe I'm quite, maybe I have a lot on my plate or something. But I'll still like try to create time, because once my mentee, always my mentee, like you can absolutely reach out to me anytime that, oh, this is something that you found and you want to like talk. Like, we all we're still all in the learning process, because the day you stop, I read it somewhere. There was no Serena Williams that said that the day you stop learning is the day you die. Everybody needs to keep learning. It doesn't even have to be scary. Anything, read books, just keep on learning as much as possible. Like, man must always evolve. That's just the thing. So if maybe you want to transition into a new career and you're like trying to get a clarity call. If I'm not in that career path, obviously I'll have people that are probably doing that, just link you up with somebody that, oh, I have somebody who wants to transition into this career path. Please help me talk to them. Please help me guide them. It is not too much to do. So yeah. Let's go back to Paul. So Paul probably thinks that we're not going to answer his question. Of course, we're going to answer your question. We actually if you ask Paul, finish class security. There's no API security and container. You come across everything. Don't worry. You actually come across everything. And we actually need people, the industry actually needs a lot of compliance security engineers now. Okay, you know what? I'll send you a link to API secure API APSec API Sec the API Sec University. Yeah, They are offering free courses on API security. Yep. Would you be interested in that? Hello.
Yes, I'll be. Yes, yes, yes. I think that's fine. Thank you.
You said?
I said yes.
So you are interested in that. You don't want to finish that security first.
I want to. We'll just be looking at both now, just to keep us busy
Yeah,
after the
but
mentorship program.
okay. All right. Okay, about your question, you said that how does compliance bodies check? For example, if our AWS set up a compliance, since you said audit can happen anytime. Paul, have you been attending our classes? Are you sure you've been attending our classes?
Yeah, I've been attending. So the reason why I asked that question was
Mm?
no. This is the reason why I asked.
This,
Someone was telling me. Someone was telling me of his AWS service. I think is AWS config. That
mm,
whatever you are creating on the cloud, it can flag
mm.
it as either compliant or not
It's can
compliant.
what? Here you go, my network. Oh. Yeah, I think sure, I didn't hear you.
So I'm saying someone was telling me yesterday, I was discussing with a friend, there's
Mm.
an AWS service called AWS config.
Well,
That
lie,
if
I
you
can't
create,
hear you again.
let me see if
Mm.
I can type.
Oh my God. Maybe because it's the last class. What's happening? Paul, maybe my network is saying that you disturb me too much. But really, according to your first question, AWS is just like when people were scared about the new tax law and they were saying, start using description. No, if you don't use description, they will remove your money. And I'm like, ah, what's happening here? First of all, the federal government will never influence your bank account and say they want to audit you. That's not how it works. Mm-mm. Whether you use narration or not, whether you use narration or not, the FIRS will never like say, okay, I want to see your bank. What they will do is they will come and audit you and you really want to present your bank statement to them. It is when you're not compliant that you will get charges. Maybe you're not compliant when it comes to transfer pricing. Maybe you have two companies and the two companies are transacting with each other and there is no documentation stating that, okay, oh, this and this and this are transacting, and you are the owner of the two companies. Like, these are some loopholes that they will find. But saying that they want to check your transaction without coming to your place, they will even serve you a notice that they want to come and audit you. So the same thing for your security services. AWS will not just, or auditors will not just say, AWS, please give me so person's name, unless required by the law. Maybe you've been actually doing some fraudulent transactions, you've been doing some things on the cloud or in the cloud that actually like flagged, then yes, AWS can give, they will even notify you that this was required by law or required by the court. But aside that, compliance bodies or auditors, they don't randomly scan AWS. They assess when they come to your company. It is when you want to, as a person, when you want to, you have to get the certifications like ISO 27001 or SOC. You have to get the certification. If you're working in any industry that has a certification to show that you're compliant. So when you request to get the certifications, is when they will now come. So this checking your AWS environment, it is part of requirement to check whether you've been compliant this whole time. If you are compliant, yes, you will pass that particular certification exercise and you will be awarded with the certificate. So they focus on how you configure and manage AWS, not just AWS, because how you use AWS, your IAM policies, you set your cloud trail, all those things that has to do with security. They check those things to check if you're, and it's not like as if they will just barge into your company. Most times you are the one who requested to be audited because you need their certification. They won't just hand over certification to you. That's what the audit is for. Unless maybe somebody whistleblowed you that it seems that you've been collecting people's data for the wrong thing, then they can barge in to your office to say they will serve you a notice all the same. They will serve you if that they're coming to audit you, and they will check past records. So if you've not been doing, your compliance duties, it will show in your logs that you just probably enabled CloudTree when you heard that they were coming. Do you understand, Paul?
Yeah, I
So they will
understand. Thank you.
view your documentation. They will start with your security policies, your access control, your encryption, your incident response, your risk assessment, data classification policy, vendor management, including AWS as a sub-processor, how you are managing your AWS cloud. They will check your change management procedure. They will check your business continuity plan. So if you claim compliance, they expect written controls, not just, oh, we use AWS. So you can't just say, we use AWS. Okay, let me see the way you've been using AWS. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand.
So all these audits, they have like scheduled time. There's annual, there's semi-annual, there's surveillance audit, there's random sampling checks. Do you get it? So again, that's something that AWS being compliant does not mean that you are compliant. Auditor must now check that, okay, fine, we want to see how you've been using. Oh my God. Somebody's saying they can't hear me. Please, what did you hear last so I can go back again? It seems like somebody can't hear me. Please tell me what you heard last so I can go back and... Hello, Daniel. You said you can't hear me, and I'm trying to go back and explain. I need to know what you heard last. Here we go again. But can every other person hear me so I can know? Hello? Oh my God. Damn. Can you guys hear me? Hello. Oh no.
Yes, we can hear you.
I don't understand though. But this person is saying I'm not audible and I don't know what's happening. So, Paul, you also said that your friend was telling you about an AWS service called AWS Config, and if you create a resource, you can check if it's compliant or not. I mentioned, where have you been from the beginning of this passport? When I was mentioning the tools that you can use in cloud, I mentioned AWS Config. I remember that I mentioned it. Paul, where is your mind? First, come and tell me. Come and explain yourself to me. You couldn't hear me. I mentioned AWS config like way back. Like way back under the resources that you can use. You had network issues. Maybe you will check the slides later. The thing is that it's not just about the slides. Like I was explaining each thing in the slide, like in each slide, each resource, I was explaining like each thing there. So maybe you would have to probably watch the video again when it's out. But yeah, I did mention AWS config. And auditors actually love AWS config because it provides historical configuration history, can also provide evidence reports, and a proof that monitoring is continuous. So instead of you taking screenshots when they come to your company, you can just show them your AWS config dashboard and compliance history reports. But AWS config will only check your technical configuration compliance. It will not check whether you trained employees. It will not check whether incident response procedures are followed. It will not check whether you document risk assessments. It will not check whether access reviews are performed quarterly. That's where your frameworks like ISO 27001 and SOC 2, that's where they come in because they require organizational controls too. So AWS config, you can use it for your configuration compliance. But there are like much more other things that it will cover. Achiko. In the absence of no question or no questions, I would like to officially, because this is the last class, I'd like to officially end the VA cybersecurity cloud security track class. So everybody clap for yourself for sticking it to the end. Who has been here from class 1 to the end? Has anyone ever, like, maybe you've been here, you never missed any class, you've been coming to class from like class 1 to the end? Paul? Can anyone confirm that Paul has been coming to class from like class 1? Are you sure? I don't have access to attendance, so. Hey, God. I'll actually miss everyone. Like I said, please, if you have any maybe after the old mentorship class and you have any question or you want to, I'm literally there, please. And message me. And yeah. I'll miss our Friday classes. Like come and be living with you people. I don't want to be living with you. I don't want to be this. I don't want to be living with you. Wow, nobody said anything. Wow, nobody wants to accommodate me. It's like I can sleep earlier. So do you guys know your project presentation is March 13th? How's it going so far? The busy bees among us. Hope you are able to show up. You know the way group projects are. You don't do if you don't participate, I will not put your name there. So please try to just, out of no time, show up. I don't know how you guys are doing. Maybe you guys are meeting up for meetings or you are doing group calls. I don't know. Just try. If you're not going to be available, can tell maybe you guys have a group head. You can tell the group head ahead of time that, oh, please, I'll come in late, I'll join you. Because I know how frustrating it can be when we are doing group projects and some people are not attending. Yes, probably they are truly busy, but if they give acknowledgement that please, I'll be late to the class or I'll be late to the call, or so what do you want me to do so I can come to the next time I'm coming to the meeting, that would make the people that are showing up consistently to feel like, oh yeah, no, this person actually took excuse and they said they're not going to be around. So the busy bees, please try to like communicate with whoever is leading the team while you're not going to be around and ask for what they want you to do so that you work on that before the next time you guys meet for a call. I can't wait to see the amazing presentation that you should not fall my hand. Please, I beg you, I'm on my knees. Please don't fall my hand. I beg you, I'll buy you chocolates. Please, buy you chocolates. All right, good night, everyone. Have an amazing night and also have an amazing week ahead. Bye. Ciao. Shen Shen. Oh, is it Shen Shen? Shen Shen. Sorry, because I'm trying to learn a new language, so that's why my Chinese is rusty. Shen Shen. All right, good night, everyone. We're in the class now. Oh, It's the end
Bye-bye.
point.
Thank you.
You're welcome. That's the end of the reception.